Brett, I've heard you talk about the five key concerns you have, or the five key threats you have before. Could you name those five?
So the first one is the one I worry least about. I don't worry zero about it, but I worry least about it, which is the malevolent AI that the doomers are so focused on. The second one is the idea that, an AI can be misaligned, not because it has divergent interests, but because it just misunderstands what you've asked it. These autonomous agents, the famous example is you ask them to produce as many paper clips as possible, and they start liquidating the universe to make paper clips. And, it's a sorcerer's apprentice kind of issue. The third one I would say is actually all of the remainder of them, I would say, are guaranteed. And the third of them is the derangement of human intellect, that we are already living in a world where it's very difficult to know what the facts even mean, right? The facts are so filtered and we are so persuaded by algorithms that it's, our ability to be confident even in the basic facts, even within our own discipline sometimes is at an all-time low, and it's getting worse. And that problem takes a giant leap forward at the point that you have the ability to generate undetectable deep fakes, right? That's going to alter the world very radically. When the fact that you're looking at videotape of somebody robbing a bank doesn't mean that they robbed a bank or that a bank was even robbed. So anyway, I call this...
We deal with this a lot, by the way. I think every single week I have a chat of people that just are now basically spending, I'd say 30% of their time dealing with deep fakes of me, doing crypto scams, inviting people to Telegram groups, and then asking them for credit card details. We had one on X. I think you probably saw it, Dan, didn't you, of me? But that someone was running deepfake ads on X of me. And it wasn't just one ad. It was like it was like swatting flies. There was 10 of them, and I messaged them to X, and then there was 10 more. Then the day after there was 10 more. Then the day after there was 10 more. Then it started happening on Meta. So it's a video of me basically asking you to come to a Telegram group where people are being scammed and audience members of mine are being scammed. And when I send them to Meta, they thankfully remove them, but then there's 5 more. So then I went on LinkedIn yesterday and my DMs are, Steve, by the way, there's this new scam. And I actually, at this point, I'd need someone full time just sending this over to Meta.
I'm the same, but on a smaller scale. Every week, it's, did you really message me on Facebook asking me for my crypto wallet and blah, blah, blah.
My least favorite ones are when the single mother messages me saying that she just paid £500 of her money and how devastated she is. And I feel this moral obligation to give her money back because she's fallen for some kind of scam. That was me. It was my voice. It was a video of me telling her something.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you deal with that, but sorry, do continue.
Well, I mean, that's actually on the list here. The massive disruption to the way things function, both because people are going to be unemployed in huge numbers and because those who are not abiding by our social contract are going to find themselves empowered more than the people who do. So in this case, not only is this poor woman, now out $500 for whatever the scam was, but you've also been robbed. Whether or not you pay her back for the thing that she thought she purchased, your credibility is being stolen by somebody and you have no capacity to prevent it. This has happened to me also, and it is profoundly disturbing. And it is only one of a dozen different ways that AI enables those who are absolutely willing to shrink the pie from which we all derive in order to enlarge their slice. There are innumerable ways that this can happen. And I think people do not see it coming. They don't understand how many different ways they are going to be robbed every bit as surely as if somebody was printing money. And then the last one is that this just simply accelerates demographic processes that do potentially result in the unleashing of technologies that pre-existed AI. This can easily result in an escalation into wars that turn nuclear. So anyway, I think that list could probably be augmented at this point. Now that we've spent a little time in the AI era, we can begin to put a little more flesh on the bones, both of what is possible in this era and what we should fear.
One of those, you mentioned truth, the problem of truth. Would you say, just a thought experiment, someone today, like an average person, college educated, say person, are they more propagandized or led astray than someone in Soviet Russia?
Well, I don't know because I didn't live in Soviet Russia,
Yeah.
but my understanding from people who did was that there was a wide awareness that the propaganda wasn't true. It doesn't mean they knew what to believe, but there was a cynicism, which is one of my fears here, is that you're really stuck choosing between two bad options. In a world where you can't tell what is true, you can either be overly credulous and be a sucker all the time, or you can become a cynic and you can be paralyzed by the fact that you just don't believe anything. But neither of those is a recipe for.
Do you think Google search first, and maybe now ChatGPT, has helped people more or less to find truth?
I think it's not ChatGPT exactly, but all of the various AI engines
Starting with Google, yeah.
have briefly enhanced our capacity to know what's true, because in fact they allow us to see through the algorithmic manipulation, because the AI is not well policed. You can get it to recognize patterns that people will swear are not true. And so anyway, a lot of us have found it useful in just simply unhooking the gaslighting. So that's been very positive. But I also remember the early days of search, and search used to be a matter of, there are some pages out there, I don't know where they are. Here's a mechanized something that's looked through this stuff and just point me at the direction of things that contain these words, right? Before the algorithmic manipulation started steering us into believing pure nonsense because somebody who controlled these things decided it was useful for us to believe those things. So my guess is, at the moment, AI is enhancing our ability to see more clearly, but that really depends on some kind of agreement to protect that capacity that I'm not aware of us having.
Amjad, are you implying there that AI will protect us from the AI, i.e. the woman that got scammed in my audience, the platforms would have a tool built in which would be able to identify shortly that that is not me, and the ad has been launched by someone in another country potentially. And then also when she starts being asked for her credit card details in such a way on Telegram, 10 minutes later, the system will able to understand there that this is probably a scam at that touch point too. And it will also be the defense, not just the offense.
Well, first thing, question, is Meta incentivized to solve this problem?
Yes.
Yes. And so Meta is probably actively working on AIs. And again, it's going to be a cat and mouse game, like every abuse that happens out there. So I think that the market will naturally respond to things like that. In the same way that, we install antiviruses, as, annoying as they are, I think we'll install AIs on our computers that will allow us to at least help us kind of sort the fake from the truth.
Well, but let's take the example you say. Is Meta incentivized to solve this problem? Superficially, it seems that it should be. But how many times in recent history have we watched a corporation cannibalize its own business over what at best is the bizarre desires of its shareholders, right? Why was X throwing off people with large accounts, or Facebook, or Google? It would seem that you would expect, based on the market choosing search engines or social media sites, you would expect these companies to be absolutely mercenary and say, if Alex Jones has a big audience, who are we to say? That's what I would have expected. Instead, you had these companies policing the morality of thought, even though it reduced the size of the population using the platforms. I have a hard time explaining why that happened, but I have every reason to expect the same thing will happen with AI.
Bret, what are you excited about with AI? What's your optimistic take? Because at the start of this conversation, you said that there's infinite ways that it could improve our lives, and there's 10 times more ways that it could hurt our lives. But let's investigate some of those ways that it could drastically improve our lives.
There's a couple of different ways. One, we have, as we mentioned before, a dearth of competent teachers and professors. And that is a problem that will take 3 generations at least to solve if what we're going to do is start tomorrow and start educating people in the right way that would make them competent to stand at the front of a room and educate. But if we can augment that process, if we can leverage a tool like AI so that, a small number of competent teachers can maybe reach a larger number of pupils. That's plausible, I think. Second thing is we have a tremendous number of problems that are obstacles to us living well on this planet that AI might be able to manage that human intellect alone cannot, right? Just in the same way that, compute power can calculate things at a rate that human beings can't keep up. And there are certain things you want calculated very well. There are also some reasoning problems. You could imagine that instead of having static laws that govern behavior poorly because they get gamed, that you could have a dynamic interaction. You could specify an objective of something like a law, and then you could monitor whether or not a particular intervention successfully moved you in the direction that you were hoping to go or did something paradoxical, which happens all the time. And you could basically have governance that is targeted to navigation and prototyping rather than to specifying a blueprint for how we are to live.
So we wouldn't need politicians.
At the moment, we're stuck with constitutional protections that are as good as has been constructed and still inadequate to modern realities.
Dan, what are you excited about with AI? From an individual level, but also from a societal level?
Yeah, well, the big ones are healthcare and education. I mean, it's ridiculous that you are sitting there in pain, having had an MRI, and there just hasn't been someone to look at that MRI yet and tell you what to do. And that could easily be solved. There's all sorts of healthcare issues where, and also not only that, throughout the entire world, there are places that just don't have general practitioners and they don't have, medical advisors and the breakthroughs in global healthcare will be phenomenal, and the breakthroughs in global education could be transformational on the planet. I'm excited at an individual level that I think the industrial age created a bunch of jobs that are very dehumanizing, and we've just kind of gotten used to them and put up with them. The idea that work should be repetitive and, you just repeat the same loop over and over and over again, and over a 10-year period of time, you might get, graduated up one gear and all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's very human. The idea that you could be simultaneously writing a book, launching a business, running a team, launching a festival, having an event, that you could actually be doing this kind of like mini kingdom work where you've got this little, ecosystem around you of fun things that you're involved in. That is actually made possible for a vast majority of people if they embrace these kind of tools. You can live an incredibly fulfilling and amazing and impactful existence. Or I know that I do, as a result of having these tools in my life. Like I'm doing things that I could have only dreamed about as a kid.
And what would you say to entrepreneurs? I know you work with thousands of entrepreneurs. What are you telling them in terms of their current businesses or business opportunities that you're foreseeing?
So I think that small teams have infinite leverage now, and that when you have a team of, say, 5 to 10 people who share an incredible passion for a meaningful problem in the world, and they want to see that meaningful problem solved, and they come together in the spirit of entrepreneurship to solve that problem, that little 5 to 10 person team, armed with the technology that we now have available, you can have a big impact. You can make a lot of money, you can have a lot of fun, you can solve meaningful problems in the world, you can scale solutions. You can probably do more in a 3-year window than most people did in a 30-year career. And then that little band of 5 to 10 people could either go together onto a new meaningful problem, or they could disband and, work on other meaningful problems with different teams.
In such a world where you have this sort of infinite leverage, but everyone else has access to the same infinite leverage, what becomes the USP? Going back to this idea of the moat, like what is the thing of value when we've all got access to $20 infinite leverage?
Well, first of all, the first thing you need to understand is that this moment of time is the least competitive moment. Like if you understand how to use these tools, you can start making money tomorrow. Like I see countless examples of people making thousands of dollars with these hustles that I talked about, or building businesses that generates millions of dollars in the first couple of months of existence. So I would say start moving now, start building things. So it's an unprecedented time of wealth creation. clearly, at some point, as the market gets more efficient, as more and more people understand how to use these tools, there's less potential for creating these massive businesses quickly. And we've seen this, like the dawn of the internet or dawn of the web. It was a lot easier to create Facebook than it is now. Then we had mobile, and for 3, 4, 5 years, it was very easy to create massive businesses, and then it became harder. Being just at the edge of what's possible is going to be very, very important over the next couple of years. And that gets me really excited, because the entrepreneurs who are paying attention are going to be having the most amount of fun, but they're also going to be able to make a lot of money.
How many applications have been built on Replit to date?
So I can talk about the millions of things that have been built since we started the company, but just since September, when we launched Replit Agent, there's been about 3 million applications built purely in natural language, with no coding at all, purely natural language. Of those, I think 300, 400,000 of them were deployed in a real. The site was deployed, and it is having people are using it. Some kind of business, some kind of internal tool.
I built one last night, by the way.
An internal tool, or
I built an application to track how my kids earn pocket money.
Amazing.
So I just told it that I wanted to track the tasks that are happening around the house and assign a value to them.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to, at the end of the week, push a button and get a summary of how much to pay each child for their pocket money.
We are so screwed.
And within 15 minutes, it had created this application. And it was amazing. Like, you could toggle between, like, here's the place where you have the kids, and here's the weekly reports, and here's the how much per task, and you can tick off the tasks or remove tasks or add tasks. So then I now have this application which took 15 minutes of just talking about what I wanted. And now I have an application to run the pocket money situation in the house. And by the way, it's something, having run an IT agency years ago, that's something that we would have charged £5,000 to £10,000 to create, or $5,000 to $10,000 to create.
And how much time?
Probably talking something that would have been a 3-4 week project.
And we're at the start of the S curve now that you're describing, and it's already If it's a $20, Replit's roughly $20 a month.
25
for the base case. You did 1 day of usage. Let's say it's $1.
Yeah.
It cost you minutes and $1 now. And we're at the start of the S curve.
And you talk to it like you're chatting to a developer. So one of the things that slows down the development process is you have to send the information to a developer, and they need to understand it, and then they need to create something and then come back to you. This just happens in front of your eyes while you're watching it, and it's actually showing you what's being built. And it's really wild.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favor. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.